Alright, hey everybody. We're about to get jumping in right into this here. I'm going to turn the music down a little bit on my headset. I think it's probably a little bit loud on the stream, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit as well. And then we're going to just jump right into this here. Let me just... make myself a little smaller. I'm going to put myself over. Okay. There, we have a little baby kitty with us in here today.
There she is.
Oh, that's okay, baby. Alright. Alright, so yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this. We're going to be talking about Bill C-11 and looking at some of the Ontario election news as well. If you are not already subscribed to me, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and like this stream so we can get some eyes on it. And that would be fantastic. And I might have to put the kitty out here real quick. So give me a second here. And we're going to be looking at Bill C-11. So give me 2 seconds and I'll be right back. And we're going to go ahead and get started on this. Oh, baby. Raja, bud. All right, sweet. I'm going to take you outside. All right. So jumping right into our reading of Bill C-11, and then we're going to be doing some research into if we actually need to do anything more on this or what's going on. Because this was being talked about today during the House. I saw Canadian YouTuber JJ McCullough say that he was going to be testifying in the House during question period. So once he uploads that link, I will watch that as well. I don't normally agree with JJ on almost anything, but he does have he has knowledge and experience on how a lot of this stuff works. And Bill C-5 also passed. Oh, sorry. It's considering Bill C-5 at the report stage right now. Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into Bill C-11. We're going to look into this, try to figure out exactly what's going on, if it's actually going to affect YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, that kind of stuff, or if it's actually just for big producers like Netflix, Apple TV, etc., etc. So let's go ahead and walk through this a little bit. So the first reading was on February 2nd from the Minister of Canadian Heritage. And that is who again? Pablo Rodriguez. Okay. All right, so summary. The enactment amends the Broadcasting Act to, among other things, add online undertakings. Specify the act does not apply in respect of programs uploaded to an online undertaking that it provides a social media service by a user of the service unless the programs are prescribed by regulation. Update the broadcasting policy for Canada set out in Section 3 of the Act by saying the Canadian broadcasting system should serve the needs and interests of all Canadians according to all things. Provide opportunities to Indigenous people and Indigenous programming. Embrace the vitality of the dual lingualism. Specify that the CRTC must regulate and supervise the Canadian broadcasting system in the manner that takes into account the different characteristics of all the languages, takes into account nature and diversity of the services. Okay. So what we need to do here... Okay, the definitions of broadcasting, broadcasting undertaking, distribution undertaking, network, and programming undertaking in Section 2 of 1 are respectively replaced by the following. Okay, broadcasting means any transmission of programs, regardless of whether the transmission is scheduled or on demand, and whether the programs are encrypted or not by radio waves or other means of telecommunication for reception by the public by means of broadcasting receiving apparatus. By means of broadcasting receiving app. What is that? What does this mean, guys? Broadcasting receiving. Does that just mean like through a cable box? But does not include any such transmission that is made solely for performance or display in a public place. Distribution undertaking, an online undertaking. Oh, there it is. A programming undertaking and a network. Network includes any operation where control over all or any part of the programs or program schedules of one or more broadcasting undertakings is delegated to another undertaking or person, but does not include such an operation that is an online undertaking. I don't know about that, boys. That seems a little sketch. Programming undertaking means an undertaking for the transmission of programs, either by radio waves or other means of telecommunication, or indirectly through a distribution undertaking for reception by the public by means of broadcasting receiving apparatus, but does not include such an undertaking that is an online undertaking. It does not include such an undertaking. Okay. We're adding affiliates, barriers, community element, control, indigenous people, online undertaking. Means an undertaking for the transmission of retransmission of programs over the internet for reception by the public by means of broadcasting receive. Okay, we need to know what they mean by a broadcasting receiving apparatus. Does that just mean internet, or it's just anything that you can watch something or watch or take? Okay, so receiving a broadcast receiving apparatus is literally anything that can provide you programming. Okay. Programming control means control over the section of programs for transmission, but does not include control over the selection of programming service for retransmission. Oh my goodness, this is a lot of stuff. Okay. Social media service and programming control. An online undertaking that provides a social media service does not, for the purposes of the Act, exercise programming control over programs uploaded by a user of the service who is not the provider of the service or the provider's affiliate or the agent or mandatory or of either of them. Okay, a person does not carry on an online undertaking for the purpose of this act in respect of a transmission of programs over the internet that is ancillary to a business not primarily engaged in the transmission of programs to the public, and that is included and intended to provide clients with information or services directly related to that business, is part of operations of a primary or secondary school, is part of an operations of theater, concert hall, or other venue of live performing arts. This is weird. The cannabis. There's a lot of changes going on here. Clause 1, Clause 3, 1 to 7, relevant portion of subsection 3-1 is hereby declared that the broadcasting policy for Canada that Canadian broadcasting system shall be effectively owned by Canadians. English and French language programming, blah blah blah. Program provided by the Canadian broadcasting system should be varied, blah blah blah. Drop delete, blah blah blah. This is actually an interesting point here. If they include all online programming that is made by a Canadian or a Canadian company, then does that not mean that they then must try to extend access to all Canadians as resources become available? I guess the key there is as resources become available, there is no resources available. Let's do some Control F here, because there's a lot here. Let's go internet. 8 mentions of person does not carry on online undertaking for the purposes of this act in respect of a transmission of programs over the internet. So we already talked about this. So basically, if you're a business, but you do not primarily engage in transmission of programming, then you are not considered an undertaker, or you're not doing an online undertaking of transmission of programming. Or if you are a school, or if you are a theater, concert hall, or other live performing arts venue. Those are the only exclusions, But the question is, what exactly does that mean? A person who uses a social media service to upload programs for transmission over the internet and reception by other users of the service. So, a person who uses YouTube to upload videos for transmission over the internet and reception by other users of YouTube, and who is not the provider of YouTube, so you're not Google, or the provider's affiliate. What was the affiliate in relation to any person? Means any person who controls that the first person or who is controlled by that first. So if you're not a Google employee or registered with them. My question is, what happens if you're a Twitch affiliate or a Twitch partner? Does that count? I'm not 100% sure on that, because it's an or, not an and. So a person who uses Twitch to upload live streams over the internet and for reception of other users on Twitch, who is not the provider of the service, who is not Twitch or Amazon, or the provider's affiliate. But an affiliate is any person other than the first person that controls it, by a first or third person who also controls the first person. So it's basically just you work for them, or you're associated with them. Or the agent or mandatory of either of them does not, by the fact of that use, carry on a broadcast. Okay. This is the section right here, 2.1. So this is Bill C-11, subsection 2.3-2.1. I don't know if I don't know if this is. I don't know if this is actually that good. Hold on, I actually want to pull that back up. Let's see what the other. Person does not carry. Yeah, we already talked about that. Okay, non-application. The act is amended by adding the following after section 4. Non-application. Programs on social media service. The act does not apply in respect of a program that is uploaded to an online undertaking that provides a social media service by a user or the service's transmission over the internet and reception by other users of the service. I don't know if I like that. Okay. Every 7 years, the commission, CRTC, shall consult with all interested persons with respect. This is where it gets very weird, because you can't have a statement like this if it includes all social media members or users or even creators. Like if you even just limit it to all creators and all the business aspects on like from Google or from TikTok or from Amazon or whatever. That's like millions of people. So yeah, they want to have a report. Cannabis Act. When you want to get off that darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. We're looking for what section? I want to see how this affects it. 23-2-B. 23. You should grow feathers and see this too. When you want to get off the 23. Okay, publication. It is prohibited to publish, broadcast, or otherwise disseminate on behalf of another person with or without consideration any promotion that is prohibited by any 17 to 20. Does not apply. Okay, so what was the change? Is so 23-2-B. Has been replaced by this. In respect to broadcasting, a distribution undertaking as defined in that subsection 2.1 that is lawful under the Act, other than that broadcasting of a promotion that is inserted by the undertaking or an online undertaking as defined in that subsection 2-1, that is lawful under that act in respect of the retransmission of programs over the internet other than the broadcasting of a promotion that is inserted by the undertaker. And in respect of a person that disseminates a promotion if they did not know at the time of the dissemination that there includes a promotion that is prohibited under section 17 to 22. 17 to 22. Okay. Promotion. Unless authorized under this act, it is prohibited to promote cannabis or a cannabis accessory of any service related to cannabis, including communicating information about its price or distribution by doing so in a manner that it blah blah blah. By doing so in a manner that there are reasonable grounds to believe could be appealing to young persons. What the fuck does that mean? That's terrible. By means of a testimonial or endorsement, however displayed or communicated, by means of a depiction of a person. So basically, you're not allowed to advertise cannabis. Except in informational promotions, or at a point of sale, brand element, false promotion, sponsorship. So yeah, they're not allowing any like promotion of cannabis stuff through this, and that still continues, which I don't know, man. This doesn't seem great. Broadcasting time oh, this is interesting. Okay. In the period beginning on the issue of the writs for a general election and ending at midnight on the day before polling day, every broadcaster shall, subject to the regulations made under the Broadcasting Act and conditions imposed under Section 9.1 of that Act, make available for purchase by all registered parties for the transmission of political announcements and other programming produced by or on behalf of the registered parties 6.5 hours of broadcasting time during prime time on its facilities. Okay, so we need to read section 9.1 of the Canada election. Alright, and we're looking for what section here? We're looking for 43 subsection 3351. Political broadcasts. This doesn't. 43. Okay. 43 subsection 330. This doesn't look right. 335-1 maybe? How many? But I don't see a section 335 anymore. There is no section 335 because it goes 332 to 348. Huh. Interesting. For the electors, this possibly. B21S17. Broadcasting. Is that C2000, right? Or 2001? Hmm. So I guess the question is, what is their definition of a broadcaster? Yeah, I don't know, man. This is kind of weird. Okay, broadcasting means any transmission of programs, whether or not encrypted by radio waves or other means of telecommunication, reception by the public, by means of broadcasting receiving apparatus, but does not include any such transmission of programs solely for the performance or display in a public. Let's see if we can find any debate on this. Okay, there's a bill on. Okay, let's listen. Let's watch Julie here.
Honourable member for Davenport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll be sharing my time with the honourable member of Lac Saint-Louis.
Their audio just not.
Madam Speaker, it's an absolute privilege for me to stand in the House today to speak on behalf of the residents of my riding of Davenport, to speak in support of Bill C-11, an act to amend the Broadcasting Act and to...
Okay.
Honourable member for Davenport.
Just make sure it's still playing here. Okay.
Speaker, I'll be sharing my time with the honourable member of Lac Saint-Louis. Madam Speaker, it's an absolute privilege for me to stand in the House today to speak on behalf of the residents of my riding of Davenport, to speak in support of Bill C-11, an act to amend the Broadcasting Act and to make related and consequential amendments to other acts. I'm truly grateful to the leadership of the Minister of Canadian Heritage and the work that he, his department, his team have done with respect to this bill. And as I've mentioned many times in this chamber, my riding of Davenport is in Toronto's West End, is home to more artists, creators, and those in the culture industry than probably most ridings across this country. And so anything that impacts the artists and cultural sector is of great interest to me and to the residents of my riding. Before I go any further, I'd like to acknowledge that I am delivering this speech from the unseated committed
we just need
the interests of Canada and Canadians through a forward-thinking digital policy.
Okay, so based off of what we just read, I don't exactly know where this is going, so let's just listen to what she's going to say here. And welcome to the stream if you are new.
The agenda. This will include steps to make the internet fairer and safer for all Canadians, while ensuring that it remains an engine for innovation. For decades, our system has guaranteed the creation of Canadian movies, TV shows, and music. Today, streaming platforms benefit from access to the Canadian market, but have zero responsibility toward Canadian artists and creators. With C-11, our online streaming bill, we're asking online streamers to showcase and contribute to the creation of Canadian culture. The Online Streaming Act will also improve fairness in the broadcasting system and ensure the sustainability of our cultural industries and the livelihoods of Canadian artists and creators. Madam Speaker, a key and important element of the Online Streaming Act is its application to online streamers. This issue has seen a lot of debate in the past, but our approach moving forward is quite simple. Canadians will continue to be able to use social media as they always do, and they will not be subject to this legislation. User-uploaded programs on social media, including those of digital-first creators, are excluded.
Okay, so she said that they are excluded. Now let's see if we can find anything that is entirely in opposition. Okay, so there's a conservative response by John Nader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to rise to speak in the House.
So So we heard what the liberals say. Let's just hear what the conservatives say here real quick. In my mind, just based off of what I've read so far out of the bill and the changes that it's making, I'm against this. However, I could be changed. My mind can be changed on this one. I'm not completely sold one way or the other yet. So if he's actually going to speak for 20 minutes, I don't think we're definitely not going to watch 20 minutes of this dude speak. We'll probably watch just a few minutes, but let's just see what this says.
As a minister of the shadow cabinet and critic for heritage, and to present the official opposition's response to Bill C-11, an act to amend the Broadcasting Act.
Commencer.
I want to start by highlighting and celebrating our creators, artists, actors, musicians,
Okay.
all those who work in arts and culture and heritage in Canada. There is no doubt that Canada has world-class talent that have been successful here at home and throughout the entire world. Furthermore, we continue to see the ongoing development of young talents contributing to our national culture, and they will do so for years to come. This is especially true for talents who are Québécois or Francophone, exceptional talents that we all want to see flourish.
He does just speak for 20 minutes, so I don't think we're going to watch the whole...
These creators and artists deserve to be treated fairly and to have the tools that they need for their success. They deserve to have an economic environment that leads to them being paid fairly for their work. When they tell our stories, whether it be through music, the written word, on the big screen,
He's just pontificating.
on television,
He's not
and
saying
more
anything.
and more online.
Mr. Speaker,
Okay.
the Broadcasting Act has not been updated in any meaningful way since 1991. And Mr. Speaker, believe it or not,
Okay, well that's bad. If it hasn't actually been updated since 1990, that's pretty bad. I look up, that would be broadcast. Canadian Broadcast Act. Broadcasting Act 1991, Royal Assent. The last amended on 7/1/20. Regulations made on... That's not... Okay, so that part, that's not true. What was the change, though? Anything actually changed, though? Okay, so it hasn't been significantly changed since 1991, but there have been 2014, 2019, and 2020. Okay, let's go back.
times have changed a little bit since that time. As a 7-year-old kid in 1991, the phrase, "Be kind, please rewind," reflected so much of the broadcasting world. Now, 3 decades later, as a legislator, I can acknowledge that times have changed. Technology has changed. And how Canadians enjoy Canadian stories has changed. But what hasn't changed, as has been acknowledged, is the legislative and regulatory framework that governs this sector. The Government of Canada, and through the government, the CRTC, must update its approach to the treatment of arts, culture, and media to reflect the realities of the third decade of the 21st century. As many colleagues will know, my riding is home to some of the great cultural institutions in Canada, including the Stratford Festival, Drayton Entertainment, Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. What's more, our community has a vibrant music scene through events like Stratford Summer Music, and is becoming a destination.
Okay, dude, you're not saying anything here. You're just telling people about your fucking district. We don't really care that much. We want to know what you're actually talking about.
L'opposition conservatrice
This dude's not
Y'all
fucking
remember for
saying. Hold on.
Davenport.
He's not saying shit. So we need to find somebody else. Okay, let's go back. Let's go. Let's see. Online Streaming Act. So here's from Pablo, who supposedly wrote the bill, but couldn't answer questions about it earlier. Okay, here's a Songwriters Association of Canada response.
Leger poll shows over 2/3 of Canadians think foreign internet and social media companies should support content produced in this country. The survey was carried out on behalf of SOCAN, which manages music rights in Canada. 68% of respondents agreed it was important for foreign players in the internet space to contribute to or promote Canadian music, TV, and movies. 13% disagreed, 19% weren't sure. This comes as federal politicians debate a revived bill aimed at...
Okay, that doesn't really help anything either. Here is Kevin. Wow.
Resuming debate, the honourable member for Saskatoon Grasswood.
Let's watch what this guy says. Maybe he'll say something
Thank
actually
you very
important.
much, Madam Speaker, and good day, everyone. I'm once again honored to have the opportunity in this place to speak to matters contained within Bill C-11, the Online Streaming Act, a new name. I say again because
I've seen it. I've seen this guy present a few times during question period in the House, and I actually do like his presentation style. He's often pretty entertaining to watch, so that's cool. There's not too many conservatives that are both entertaining and not crazy. This guy seems kind of not crazy, and is definitely entertaining at the same time. So, Kevin, good job, bud.
because, as many will remember in the previous Parliament, we tackled these issues under a different bill, and it was called C-10,
Yep.
an act to amend the Broadcasting Act. This is a new bill and a new title, but, Madam Speaker, we still have the same issues that exist with this bill. It was interesting because moments ago in committee, the Heritage Minister admitted that C-10 was flawed. He said 2.1 should never have been in there, 4.1. He mentioned those two that we fought on this side on C-10 for weeks. But unfortunately, even with the flawed bill, it passed the...
Okay, let's see what was. So we need Bill C-10 Act to amend the Broadcasting Act 2. And then we're gonna look for 2.1 and 2.4. 2.1 and 4.1. No, I don't want the summary. So C10, where is text of the bill? Thank you. Okay, so he said that Pedro did not like. Hold on, let's go back again real quick.
He mentioned those two that Pointer admitted that C-10 was flawed. He said 2.1 should never have been in there, 4.1. He mentioned those two that we fought on this side on C-10 for...
Okay, so 2.1 and 4.1. So let's see. Okay, so 2.1. Exclusion, carrying on broadcasting undertaking. A person who uses social media service to upload programs for transmission over the internet and reception by other users of the service, and who is not the provider of the service or the provider's affiliate or the agent or mandatory of either of them, does not, by the fact that use, carry on a broadcasting undertaking for the purposes of this act. 4.1 is 4.1, paragraph 3-1, as the act is amended by adding the following after subparagraph 2. Include programs produced by Canadians that cover news and current events from the local and regional to the national and international, and that reflect the viewpoints of Canadians, including the viewpoints of Indigenous persons and of Canadians from racialized communities and diverse ethno-cultural backgrounds. So we need to go find paragraph 3-31I of the original act, so the Broadcasting Act. Leave this open for right now. So we're looking for, let's see. 4. Paragraph 3, 1I. Three, 1I. Okay. The programming provided by the Canadian Broadcasting System should be varied and comprehensive, providing a balance of information, enlightenment, and entertainment for men, women, and children of all ages, interests, and tastes. Be drawn from local, regional, national, international sources. Include educational and community. Provide reasonable opportunity for the public to be exposed to the expression of differing views on the matters of public concern, and include a significant contribution from the Canadian Independent Production Center. And this added include programs produced by Canadians that cover news and current events. Okay, so why was that a mistake? Hold on. Why was that actually a mistake? I want to go back, and we're going to go back here and listen to what Kevin's saying.
The Heritage Minister admitted that C-10 was flawed. He said 2.1 should never have been in there. 4.1. He mentioned those two that we fought on this side on C-10 for weeks. But unfortunately, even with the flawed bill, it passed the House. But then they called the unnecessary election and the bill died. But this is the first time the Minister of Heritage has actually admitted it was a flawed bill, C-10. So here we go now with C-11, an update. We all know the update is necessary, Madam Speaker. It's been 30 plus years since we updated the Broadcasting Act. I was even a young broadcaster 30 plus years ago when this came out. Okay? At that time, believe it or not, there was no internet, right? It was just radio and TV back then, a little bit of newspaper, right? But of course, the internet came, and the World Wide Web, as we know it today, has changed a lot. There were no internet companies, Madam Speaker, no online streaming services to compete with the healthy Canadian broadcasters. But when the predecessor of this bill was drafted in Parliament last session, we addressed 4 major areas of concern.
Okay, let's listen to these 4 areas of concern. I think that based off my reading of the bill and the previous bill, the C-10 bill, it doesn't really seem to do a whole lot. There's a lot of shit written here, but it doesn't really feel like it's doing much. So, I don't know, man. Like, this bill seems important, but it also seems like it's being kind of overhyped a bit. It doesn't really feel like there's a whole lot here that's actually being added. Like, that's actually important. I think this probably affects this might affect content creators who have actual employees, or content creation brands that have subcontractors underneath them, that, or sub affiliates underneath them, is what the bill says, and those are also being used to I guess transmit broadcasts through the internet. So, all right, let's keep listening to Kevin. What's he saying?
Where the government legislation lacked this significant consideration. I mentioned a couple of those, 2.1 and 4.1, but we'll go on. Social media companies, we all know, such as Facebook and Google and their various properties, like YouTube, to pay their fair share. We agree. Second, creating that level playing field for digital platforms like Netflix, Spotify, conventional, to compete with the conventional Canadian broadcasters. Define Canadian content. This is the important one, I think, Madam Speaker, and it's the third one, because we need to define Canadian content production and media fund contributions by digital broadcasters. What is the formula?
This is actually a great point. So basically, from just reading through it, it made very little note of what Canadian content actually is and isn't. Let's see. So basically, it's talking about how there needs to be both French and English broadcasting. It's also, this is new, with exception of foreign broadcasting undertaking providing programming to Canadians be effectively owned. So they've just... This is actually maybe the most important piece of this entire, of the entire bill that's kind of being missed. Paragraph 318 of the Act is replaced by the following. The Canadian broadcasting system shall, with the exception of foreign broadcasting undertakings providing programming to Canadians, be effectively owned and controlled by Canadians. The new part is, with the exception of foreign broadcasting undertakings providing programming to Canadians. So it used to say, the Canadian broadcasting system shall be effectively owned and controlled by Canadians. Now there's an exception for foreign broadcasting undertakings. Obviously that is so, like, sports and mainstream media that is available in Canada from the UK, like the BBC or before RT was banned, or Fox, or these kind of things, or CNN. They aren't owned and controlled by Canadians, so my guess is that they're just trying to allow for that to happen, to be able to be more easily broadcasted, which is fine. But it also limits and reduces the actual control that Canadians have over the content that's being produced for them. It also goes back to how strict our definition of broadcasts are. And again, this act is not very specific, even though it's like, 50 fucking pages long. It doesn't really say much.
And finally, the power given to the CRTC, better known as the Canadian Radio Television Communications Commission, to attempt to regulate in such a broad manner. This is an organization, Madam Speaker, which struggles to enforce their own regulations now.
Yeah.
If we can even look at today, Russia Today. Well, they really never did take it down. It was the big conglomerates that moved in and took Russia Today down, like Bell, like Rogers, and Shaw.
This is true. The CRTC... Well, okay, so first of all, let me just be very clear here. I do not support the CRTC taking down any content. Any content. That includes content funded by a foreign government, whether that be Russia, the UK, or the Americans. Don't laugh at that last part. That happens. So, it is up to Bell or Rogers or whoever to delist those channels from their programming, because otherwise it would be a direct violation of free speech and free expression. Now, you could argue that the way that the Canadian broadcasting system is set up allows for that kind of control to eliminate content on public airwaves that it does not want to be on there. But now we're moving into the internet age where, I mean, how many people watch TV anymore? Like, let's be very clear here. I don't think the TV is that successful. Let's just do a quick search on this real quick. Canada cable subscribers. It's probably a little bit higher here than it is in the States, but like percentage wise, but I wouldn't imagine it's too much. 10.3 million subs. Down from 10.4 last year, but I want a better I kind of want, yeah, in 2022, less than 50% of households in Canada will have pay TV. Yeah, because nobody, like, this number will probably be in the 20% range next few years. Like, why? Why would you pay for TV? Again, my previous statements in the past has actually been correct. I don't think that TV is going to survive. Other than just from the mass amount of marketing and ad dollars that they can. All right, so here we go. So in 2019, 59% of Canadian households had cable or paid TV. 2022, they're expecting it to drop. It's going to be under 50%, 48.9%. And they're saying that by next year, it'll be 46%. By 2025, eMarketer predicts that just 7 million households will maintain pay TV subscriptions, 43.1% of all households. My guess on that is that it would probably be very skewed towards the older demographics. So as time goes on, fewer and fewer people are going to have cable because fewer and fewer people have ever had cable. It's kind of the same thing with like landlines. That's actually a good comparison. Canada landline. What would I search for that? Landlines total. Fixed telephone subscriptions. In 2000, 20.84 million people had a telephone subscription. It is now 13.9 million. And that number is actually pretty, it's more people have landlines than have, in 2020, more people had landlines than had cable. And we're seeing that same kind of decrease. It actually did go up in 2020, a little bit, but I'm not sure if this includes cell phones. Fixed telephone subscription. What is that? Just a landline. Yeah, fixed phone line. Okay. This is just a phone line. So, so this is fixed line. Oops, fixed line subscribers, Canada. Here we go. Here's some more accurate news. See here. Yeah. Let's go like go like 1995. So there are yeah, so you can look at this chart and then you can look at some other ones that we've looked at already. Compare the two and go, "Oh yeah, this is looking pretty bad as far as the promotion and long-term stability of both TV and phone." And
so it's interesting. I think we all agree the CRTC should have moved long before Russia Today was pulled down from Canadian programming.
Again, I disagree with that.
40 years ago, Madam Speaker, internet companies and streamings were not even a consideration, but digital information has become absolutely accessible to everyone in this country. The demand for mainstream media, television, and radio has nosedived. Streaming services become the primary source now of entertainment for many Canadians. Television stations have had to downsize their operations along with the radio stations. Many have gone dark in this country. The same is true for...
So you could argue that if you use the CRTC and existing regulation to help promote more creation of local media, it strengthens our overall democracy. However, I think that you can also make the argument that by over impeding into that space, into the content creation space, the government will have an outsized influence and therefore will probably breed more it will breed more favorable coverage to whichever party is in power because of funding. And if you hold funding over the heads of content creators and content and like news organizations, well, obviously they're going to be a little bit more hesitant to say things that they need to say. And I generally fall a little bit further on that side of things, although I do think that there is a need to have some sort of national broadcasting standards and some sort of national broadcasting just baseline production, like the CBC. I think the CBC is fine for what it does, but I do think that all of these systems can be improved.
For radio, and you know what? The radio stations right now, they have another issue. Their revenues have dropped as much as 40%. Part of the problem is the public broadcaster, CBC. This government gave them another $150 million more during the COVID to compete against private broadcasters. I just told you the private broadcasters' revenue has gone down 40%. CBC has gone up $150 million more in the budget, meaning you can see what's happening in the market. CBC, public broadcaster, is going up, while the private broadcasters, radio listeners, certainly going down, and thus the advertising isn't as good.
I think it's less that and more the fact that there's just not that many people that are listening to the radio, like to traditional radio at this point. Like, yeah, people will still listen to like music on the radio, and that's done. That, I mean, yeah, I'm sure that the music industry has also taken a little bit of a hit, but it was also over COVID, so you know, I'm not that upset about that. As far as funding for the CBC is concerned, I generally think that you probably should continue funding the CBC because there are a lot of communities and a lot of areas that just don't have private broadcasters. Canada's a really, really big country with a lot of people spread out all over the place. It's a service that is needed to keep the nation somewhat connected to each other. And is there a better way to do the content? In my opinion, no, because then you end up with the funding overhang that's being held over creators' heads all the time, and I don't think that that's a good idea either. So in this situation, I do support funding the CBC to continue that, but a lot of the issues are just that traditional mainstream broadcasters, both radio and TV, just haven't kept up. You saw the failure of holy fuck, sorry. We saw the failure of CNN Plus in the States. We see all of the major news networks in the US trying to come up with some sort of paid subscription model for content that people don't really watch anyways. We got Peacock and all these other things now. The market just says no. Like like you can incentivize things all you want, but if people don't want to watch it, if people don't care, they're just not gonna pay for it.
So the result, like my province of Saskatchewan, we have seen a major decline in local content. Easy access to digital content has been beneficial to the consumer, but with the outdated Broadcasting Act, the broadcasting sector has had some steep hurdles to overcome. And I've mentioned those
as they should.
seconds ago.
As they should. It should not be easy for media companies.
So is it fair to ask, what does a modernized act need to accomplish? And does the government's latest attempt, Bill C-11, actually achieve this goal? The first concern that we should all address is the notion that the internet needs to be regulated. We need clarity, defined parameters, clearly defined parameters, which aspects the internet will be regulated and to what extent. So will Bill C-11 create an environment where virtually all the content would be regulated, including independent content creators earning just a modest living from social media platforms such as YouTube? Bill C-11 is almost
Hey guys, subscribe to the channel if you're watching right now.
a copy, as I mentioned, of the previous Liberal offering, C-10, which was flawed and failed to address many of the concerns addressed by the experts during those hearings. When we speak of creating a level playing field, Madam Speaker, is it the context of giving Canadian content creators the protection they need to produce and compete without impeding their ability to succeed at home and globally?
So, yeah, I actually agree with him. It is important that there is local control over these systems, and it is important that funding is directed in the right ways. It's important that the Broadcasting Act is modernized, but it's also important to note that, well, if you produce content, you have the ultimate control over what gets put out. And in my mind, the internet should be basically unregulated. In my mind, you should be able to say and do pretty much whatever you want. And yeah, I mean, there's a few exceptions to that. Obviously, if you're being violent towards somebody else, that's probably not a good idea. And that includes all kinds of violence, but basically everything else I think it should be free game. Regulating this kind of shit is a slippery slope, and I do not agree with it at all. So in this situation, based on what I've seen so far, if I was sitting in Parliament, I'd be voting against C-11. It doesn't seem like a good bill, just in general, and it's not ambitious enough, and it doesn't even solve any of the problems that the Liberal government is actually trying to solve for. That's the other thing. If they want to incentivize more French and Indigenous language programs, they'll then put out some grants for people to be able to apply for. Let's just look real quick and see if there are any Canadian government grants that a private person can actually apply for to be able to start broadcasting. Let's see. I bet you that there are either none, or there might be something for like specialized arts and that kind of thing. So let's just check real quick. So we're looking for Canada Federal Content Creator Grants. We have Arts and Media, Canada Media Fund. This isn't run by the government though. This is just a private fund, I'm pretty sure. Canada Council for the Arts, National Award, blah blah blah. Certified Independent Production Funds. So they have a bunch here, but these are not. They're not public funds. They're private funds. Like, you know, it's one of those things where this is for Ontario. If you're starting or running an arts or media business, this guide can help you learn about the federal and provincial, so general arts, film and television. Like, there's all kinds of tax credits for like big organizations, but there's not really much for like local or independent stuff, which is, again, the whole fucking point of this bill is to allow for more French and indigenous cultural broadcasting, but it doesn't actually do anything. That's basically, from what I can tell so far, what it's actually doing is just enforcing that there are more standards on traditional broadcasters. If the online space isn't involved in this at all, then it really doesn't make any sense.
Regulation done properly will support the success of Canadian content producers and meet the objectives, I feel, of the Canadian heritage mandates to support artists and the cultural sector. The bill, though, leaves very little hope that this is what's going to be achieved. I remain very concerned about the CRTC being tasked with administrating the act. I believe, and I've been in the business of television and radio for over 4 decades, I've seen it that the CRTC is already stretched to its limits with the broadcasting and certainly the telecom situation in this country. CRTC lacks the capacity to carry out the current mandate effectively. How can it be expected to take on the internet? CRTC struggles to cope with the 4,000 or 5,000 entities in the broadcasting sector.
Yeah, this is the other part that's actually quite hilarious about this bill, is that let's just take the scaremongering position here for a second and just see where this leads us. So let's assume for a second that Bill C-11 will actually regulate all online content made in Canada or for Canadians, because that's the other thing that's important in this act, is that it makes basically any internet access subject to CRTC regulation if it involves media of any sort. How the fuck are they going to do that? How many employees does the CRTC even have? I can't imagine it's more than 1,000. 452 employees listed on LinkedIn. You expect 450 people to regulate the internet? Like this is both so deranged because of the control that they're trying to influence, and also idiotic because they don't have the ability to actually put that control into effect. It would be one thing if this was like, you know, 1991 and they were regulating 5 channels and, you know, a couple thousand radio stations. That's relatively easy to do. Even that, they're still not able to do that, so at least not effectively. So what's the actual enforcement mechanism here? I don't see one. What are they going to do? Like, oh, we're going to take down your content, or we're going to send a message to YouTube to make them take down your content, or something along those lines. Like, it's not Canadian enough, or it's if you're funded by like American backers or something like that, like you're no longer a Canadian content creator, even if you're talking about Canada. Like, this is just it's just ridiculous. And I don't see how this is ever going to even be enforced, never mind enacted. Like, sure, is this going to pass? Probably. What does that mean? Probably nothing for the vast majority of people, but that's not because they don't want it to be. They do want it to affect every content creator. However, it doesn't appear that they have the ability to actually enforce those mechanisms.
We're seeing it in the industry committee now, where Rogers wants to take over Shaw. It started last year. We still have no definitive action on the CRTC. Will they make a ruling soon on the takeover of $26 billion? Can they even predict the number of entities that they will be required to look after once the online streaming is added to their mandate?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, okay, how many? Who? Who is involved? Who is actually included in this? Is it just Netflix, Spotify, YouTube, and Twitch? I guess TikTok would have to be included in there, but there's been no mention of anything like that. I would assume it is. So let's say that they just blanket regulate anything on a major network. Well, then other networks are going to start popping up in Canada. Really that easy. Like, there's, I mean, I generally repost all my stuff on Odyssey as well, because it's decentralized without actual control over it. And this just seems like a way to attack Google or Alphabet and Meta and Amazon. And to be fair, I do support that. They are basically companies that are nations at this with the amount of power and control that they have over different segments of populations through media, internet access, etc. So how is a organization with 450 employees, let's even assume that's double that, let's say it's 900. It's not 900, we just saw there was 450 something. But let's say even that they doubled the total size of the CRTC to regulate online content. Again, the question comes back to how? How are you actually going to put that into effect? The internet's public. Are we going to have our own Great Firewall of Canada if YouTube decides that they're not going to comply? Because, I mean, if I was YouTube and they were like, hey, we're going to try to regulate you and we're going to try to say that you have to control X, Y, and Z content because of X, Y, or Z reasons. If I was YouTube and it doesn't violate TOS on YouTube, I would just be like, because at the end of the day, it's user-generated content. It's not content created by YouTube. YouTube is a platform, not a publisher. This goes to the United States' rules of, I believe it was Section 230 of the Communications and something Act? Communications Decency Act. Effectively, this was like, it was a big deal for a while there. And Section 230 was, yeah, like in the States, it was basically just saying that, you know, you have to, yeah, I think this was the one that was, Second Circuit upheld immunity for the Grindr dating app for LGBT persons under Section 230 in regards to the misuse of false profiles created in the names of a real person. The plaintiff had broken up with a boyfriend who later went onto Grindr to create multiple fake profiles that presented the real-life identity and address of the plaintiff and began being available for sexual encounters as well as having illegal drugs for sale. The plaintiff reported that over 1,000 men had come to his house for sex and drugs based on the communications with the fake profile, and he began to fear for his safety. He sued Grindr for not taking actions to block the false profiles after multiple requests. Grindr asserted Section 230 did not make them liable for actions of the ex-boyfriend. This was agreed by the district court in the Second Circuit. Yes. Because Grindr's a platform, not a publisher. They're not the one that's actually producing content. They're not the ones that are making profiles. They're the ones making profiles, and they were the one doing this, then obviously, yeah, they would definitely be in of liability there. But the Herrick, in this case, Herrick v. Grindr, Herrick has to sue the ex-boyfriend, not the app. because the app is not the one that is directly responsible. There's no intent there to commit a crime. Whereas the ex-boyfriend obviously had intent and did commit a crime, more than likely. Probably some sort of stalking or harassment violation. But, you know, there's Second Force versus Facebook Inc. 2019. Second Court upheld immunity in civil claims for service providers for hosting terrorism-related content created by users. Family, friends of associates of several killed in Hamas attacks filed suit against Facebook under the United States Anti-Terrorism Act, asserting that since Hamas members used Facebook to coordinate activities, Facebook was liable for its content. While previous rules at the federal, district, and circuit level have generally ruled against such cases, this decision in the Second Circuit was first to assert that Section 230 does apply even to acts related to terrorism that may be posted by service providers, thus dismissing the suit against Facebook. The Second Circuit ruled that the various algorithms Facebook uses to recommend content remains as part of the role of distributor of the content, not the publisher, since these automated tools were essentially neutral. The Supreme Court declined to hear the case. Yeah. So we're going to get into situations, I fear, where this bill C-11 is going to turn into our Section 230, or turn into the U.S.'s Section 230, but on the inverse. That's like worst case scenario here. Is that individual YouTubers or TikTokers or Twitch users will be sued under the Broadcast Act for violating some terms of the Broadcast Act, and that's going to have to be adjudicated by the courts, probably going all the way to the Supreme Court if this bill does indeed pass, which again it more than likely will. So I don't know. I need to go to the bathroom real quick and grab another drink. We're gonna keep playing this. There's like 6 minutes left of Kevin here. I don't like the video. Good video. I'll go ahead and throw that in the chat too real quick. You are here and you want to watch it later. Here we go. We can watch it all the way through. Let's see if that. I was seeing if the. Oh, there it is right there. Yeah, cool. Okay, so you can see that. All right, yeah. So I was just checking also to see if the my chat box was working. But I will be right back. We're gonna play Kevin here and just let.
And how much money, Madam Speaker? There is the one. And how much talent will the CRTC need on board in order to keep up with this bill? In fact, do they even understand the scope of the undertaking yet? How many years will it take to understand the criteria and scope and accumulate the resources needed to carry this out? Now, during our last debate on C-10, I asked the CRTC chairman, Ian Scott, who, by the way, is stepping down in September. He's had 5 years. How is the CRTC ever going to pay for this? He gleefully told the committee he would be going directly to the Treasury Board. Well, Madam Speaker, you know what that means. The taxpayer will be paying more for their services. What is perhaps most disappointing is that the CRTC will be handed the power to develop the rules of regulating, and they can make those rules up as they go along. This act endows the CRTC with the ability to determine its own jurisdiction without constraints. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Guelph.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I was very interested to hear the Honourable Member across the way, especially given his background in broadcasting. What I was listening for in his speech that I didn't hear, and my question is on the support of our artists and creators, the people that bring the content to broadcasters, whether it's the radio or streaming services, and how there's a value gap, that they're just simply not paid for the value that they create, and how this act is put in place to address that, to bring support to our artists and creators. Could the Honourable Member comment on how this act can improve the lives of our artists and creators in Canada?
All right, so I'm back. After we're done watching Kevin's statement here, we're gonna see if we can find anything from the NDP or from the Greens, because I think it's important to get all sides of this and to kind of formulate a response from there. As of right now, though, I am against.
Honourable Member for Saskatoon Grasswood.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the member from Guelph. He's so true.
Also,
many of our newfound talent actually came from YouTube, and then they progressed from there. Many don't deserve to be on YouTube, quite frankly, as their careers will never lift off, but it's a way to try to get started. This will be the discussion as we move forward on C-11, what to do with the internet, the YouTube, and so on, because many performers in this country are making a pretty good living right now with their talent on YouTube instead of the traditional media that we know it today of radio and TV.
Questions et commentaires, l'honorable.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for Drummond. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to commend my colleague from Saskatoon Grasswoods for his speech. He's a very honourable colleague with whom I sit on the Heritage Committee. Now, we don't always share the same viewpoint on things, but we certainly have the same passion. I'd like to ask him, he was part of the discussions on C-10 during the previous Parliament, and now we have this bill, which is quite similar to C-10. Does he think that committee discussions will go well, and does he intend to work constructively so that we can move forward and improve this bill so as to pass it? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon Grasswood.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the member from Drummond. He's a valuable member on the Canadian Heritage Committee. He has been there for years. We worship his input. We always have interesting conversations. I think for the member of the province of Quebec, one of the issues that we had in C-10 is protecting Quebec culture. And we did not see eye to eye on that a little bit because, you know, when you get to Netflix, they're not going to really shoot a show or a production in maybe Montreal because it has a limited segment of the population. They would rather do it in English because it has a larger audience. So, you know, we'll go forward, Madam Speaker, on C-11. It was interesting because, as he was just in the same committee I was, the changes that they've made to 2.1 and 4.1 from the old bill to the new bill, maybe it's time that this bill, in fact, will pass with those two new changes. We'll see.
Honourable Member for Nunavut.
The Conservatives have made it clear that they are good friends with our American neighbors. The Conservatives have referenced the importance of Canadian content as well. I do want to ask the member if they agree that Canadian content, such as the medium is the message, is a value to be protected, or is it more than allowing American sensationalism, such as "Make America Great Again"? Over that, thank you.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon Grasswood.
I'd like to thank the member from Nunavut. I was up there 4 years ago for a 2-week tour with the Senator Dennis Patterson. Enjoyed it immensely. The member would know APTN was formed in this country because voices were not heard. That's right, the public broadcaster, CBC, did not do a good enough job of giving the voices of Canadians. So what had to happen? APTN Television, out of Winnipeg, was formed. Why? To give the voices of Canadians. I would hope that in Nunavut, their voices are too heard correctly as we move along on C-11.
Okay. So we heard a little bit there that the part from the representative from Nunavut was a little bit cringe, not gonna lie. And I think that okay, hold on. I have to take care of the baby. Here. With my hair right. Yeah? Tell me a story. Okay, well, she is stuck on my back now. Oh god. Okay. Owie. can't crawl on my head. I'm sorry. Sorry, you can't crawl on my head. You can sit with me, but you cannot crawl on my head. Sorry, she's new still. She's just a baby. She's 6 weeks old now. Raja. Will climb her. She all over everything. I will be right back. I'm going to put her in the other room and go. I am back. So now we are going to go over some of the Ontario election stuff. See if we got anything new on Twitter real quick. Let's see. Oh my God, she is still crying outside the door. All right. So let's go. Let me go to my channel here real quick. I released my official. Oh my goodness. All right. I think we're actually going to end the stream here, guys. She is not having a good time right now. So thank you for coming by. Thank you for watching. And I will try to be live again.